anyway, so that's pretty neat. Now you're watching for the bag, our teams are playing for it. Let's talk about our next two teams coming up here in our upper bracket semifinals. Twisted Minds get to play against Virtus.pro, not by choice, so OWCS definitely gave them the tougher opponent here, as this is the number 2 and the number 3 seed facing off against each other. Let's highlight the two teams and what we've seen so far from both of them. Looking at Twisted Minds as we're going first here, that's just the second best team, right? It's the one team that were able to actually push OWCS, and also it's the one team that also has been running different strats. We saw the Symmetra, of course, because you have UB in the team, you play Symmetra. Simple has been like fragging out on Zenyatta. Like they've been having fun with it this stage, and they've been looking very, very dominant.
Actually, I like that we're seeing UB in the starting lineup here from TM. I think we need to see more Sim out of TM, actually, especially come playoffs. It looks really, really strong to me when Katsuya plays it. I think TM are a team that needs to follow up with that as well. Too. I mean, Psycho is insanely good. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. So whenever they want to run the Flexi best out, I think they can bring this guy in and look insanely good. Oh God, this is a design like that. Kids love that for him. But seriously, and we say this team's second best, but it's been a long time since that 2-3 incredibly close series against Katsuya. This team definitely is probably the team with the best shot to take down Katsuya to maybe be our upset champs here in EMEA. Last time they played VP, it went to 6. However, I think TM, that was like an underperformance from their perspective. They felt like they should have won that series easily, 3-0, 3-1. They thought it should be open and shut. But Virtus.pro had a lot to say in that match, so I'm curious to see how this one will play out.
Let's talk about Virtus.pro. Of course, they made some changes heading into this very stage. They have the addition of Iceland. We are seeing Vistola in the mix right now. Obviously, we're going to likely see more Vistola with Orisa and the meta being so prevalent. But for them to be able to play that hazard brawl as well, like that really has been working great for Virtus.pro.
Yeah, they've certainly added some depth this stage, of course, with the addition of Ice Gnome, but I still think that peak Virtus.pro, it lies in Vistola when he subbed in for this team. I think they've looked amazing, particularly when it comes to the Brig Juno kind of brawly compositions, and that's perhaps where they have their edge. I think we saw in the last matchup against Twisted Minds, they favored playing a lot of Cassidy, Lucio, Baptiste, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. I think stylistically this is going to be a very interesting matchup, because as we saw in that previous series, Twisted Minds, they love playing their Kiri Juno, double flex support, very greedy backline. And Virtus.pro at times, they weren't able to punish it because they like to slow things down, right? So Twisted Minds, it felt like they had the answer very much for what Virtus.pro like to play. Now, did any of those teams, did they learn anything from that matchup? Did they reiterate some of the compositions they're playing? I think that's what I'm really curious to see in this matchup. How are the teams going to react based on their 6-map series?
Let's take a look at how our community has reacted to recent showings from both of these teams. Yeah, I mean, Twisted Minds has got to be considered the favorite, although I do feel like, given the last time they faced off against each other, it was a close match. I think some people might be underestimating VP here.
That's
I do think VP has a good shot, but I actually, seeing UB in the lineup, as much as I think early on in the stage, a lot of people were saying, oh, put Psycho in more, like the Tracer, the Genji is so much more important. But I think the meta has shifted, and I think Sim is dominant right now, and I think Psycho can maybe pull it out as well. But anywhere they can run it, I kind of want them to. I think it's going to be a Sim mirror against Katsuya, and that's got to be the match you're preparing for strategically here for Twisted Minds. And honestly, I wonder if VP has an answer for that.
I think for this matchup, that's the kind of thing we need to look at Virtus.pro for. You have two things you need to solve now. You need to first beat UB playing the Symmetra, because we saw in Circuit Real like what a night and day performance that was when Twisted Minds bring out the Symmetra. Virtus.pro weren't able to do with that. And then secondly, like, how would you deal with a Kiri Juno double flex support lineup? So Virtus.pro, they really have their work cut out for them in this series.
They do indeed, but none of that should be catching them by surprise, because these are looks that we've seen a lot from Twisted Minds from the last stage. Have they have an answer? Have they found an answer? We'll find out in just a second. So for all the action, we're going to send it over to our very beloved caster duo of Avril and Matt.
See, Avril, I had them turn the desk up for us so we could hear that very nice toss from Zoe. I know I had them mute the first one where she said mean things about us. But Matt Strikes, Avril here. Game number 2 of the EMEA playoffs. I mean, game 1 was just a blip on the radar. This one, Avril, is going to be a really good series, I think, overall. Busan will be the first map pick here from TM. And I think most notably, probably the thing to talk about the most is UB in the starting lineup today.
And the Tracer's banned straight away as well, which is one of UB's specialties. It does say that we're going to be leaning heavily towards a Sim. I agree with Jake. I do believe that, particularly in the EMEA side, but even looking over towards Korea, Sim is kind of the defining character, one of the defining heroes alongside probably Orisa. But right now, a very important hero that VP at some point will be looking to ban. Isn't going to happen the first map. I'm not too sure Alari is that impactful on Busan, but whatever, it's going to come through. I also want to talk about the fact that Jaewoo is going to start on the Venture here. That's something else that we've been seeing in Korea. To answer the Sim, some teams are playing the Venture as a bit of a counter to punish you, exiting TPs, to punish you when you're playing the Sim walls as well. You can be in melee range, the booping you away from the TPs. A lot of things you can do via this Venture that can be very nice here, and even bringing the Malga through as well for VP.
Malga, that's one we haven't seen in a bit here in EMEA, but I love that, right? The Venture, they can get in such a position where they can avoid a lot of the damage that a Sim could put down, especially in combination, right? With the Malga goes in with the Stomp, the Venture comes up with a Burrow, and you're able to just take out that Sim with ease, and you see the amount of damage they put on Yubi here early on. But, you know, Avril, with that big commitment, they're not able to get the kills. The Immortality field from Simple early on keeps them alive, and then Twisted Minds battles back in a big way. They take out Pistola, they take out Jaewoo, and they'll get the point.
I'm still seeing teams play Malga, but I'm just not a believer anymore. We saw very early on, a couple of nights ago, Falcons getting knocked out by Crazy Raccoon. Harbin trying multiple times to make this Malga work, and if Harbin and Falcons, the best Malga team in the world, can't make a Malga work, I just don't believe any other team can, so it might be a bit of a trap for VP.
What do you think it is with the Malga? That's not, I mean, obviously he has a few adjustments recently, but that's not really working for a lot of these teams.
I think a lot of the all-in is not going to work when you have a Lucio back type composition, so good at peeling, so good at staying alive, TPs as well, TPing you out of cages, all of these kind of plays. And actually, Quartz, if he wants to, he can actually swap over towards the Soj, one of his, probably his signature hero, which does so good against the Malga results. There's more things a team can do if they want to win even harder than they are.
Yeah, the TP comes in when the Burrow comes in from Jaewoo, so gonna avoid a lot of that damage. A nice play there, goes back through the TP, takes out Shockwave. Shades of, I know what we just saw in the previous match is it looked like, yes, somebody may have ended up getting knocked off, but then ended up making back onto the point. It looks like that was Jaewoo potentially on the Venture, able to use some mobility and gap back over, but 2 fights in a row here, Avril, dominant so far for Twisted Minds.
This is a very just extremely Twisted Minds signature composition styles up, because they're the team that focuses a lot more RAM than Orisa. You see a lot of other teams, if you are going to play this brawl the same exact composition, you swap out this RAM, you play the Orisa, that's a lot more standard. But Twisted Minds, they favor the RAM, and they're making it look good right now. It definitely stops Vasola from playing anything like a Diva, which means Vasola, unless he wants to match the RAM or go towards Orisa, he wants to try and get this going. But look, he's already just half health, diving in.
I mean, when Gala gets extremely low, and you see Vestola as well, as soon as he pushes up.
There's no beat.
Yeah, I mean, just he gets evaporated. Yeah, Fixin not able to have that sound barrier online to be able to give the rest of the team. Yubi uses that Sim wall. As I know, VP, I think they picked this comp, and it makes a lot of sense, right? Against that Sim, but the execution has not been there. We'll see, though, if Vestola can get on the point. Will get a touch. Uses Cardiac Overdrive here. It's going to be the Annihilation used from KSA. The sound barrier comes in from Bixa, but Avril, it is just not enough. Twisted Minds still with this Sim, paired with the Ramatra, battles back against that Malga.
I think the key here is we've seen Venture Malga come. So you remember Dallas last year? There was a lot of the identity for Falcons when they ended up really pushing Crazy Raccoon to the limit. It was via the fact that when you have Venture and Malga at the same time, your all-in capability is really huge, but they just couldn't quite make that connection work. You talked about the execution here. We never really got to see any sort of these big punishes. Vastola goes in, stomps somebody down, Jaewoo follows up, and that's just an instant kill for you. But you have Lamps to save the day, you have Bunny Asher coming in, speeding away, booping as well, and at the end of that, if TP is there and you could just TP out of the way of the Malga, make some sort of TP play against the Malga, there's not a lot that Vasola can do here. Most importantly, I think the Malga just doesn't live. So he's going to give it one more go. But I don't think he'll play it again after this map if they lose.
I mean, you see the stats that were brought up there. No kills from VP in that first round. Jaewoo with like a little bit above 1,000 damage, 1,100. So a non-competitive round there from VP. Almost certainly anything they do here will be better, as TP up to the high ground here from UB, just going to dodge a lot of the dive that's going to come through at him, as Zeta just Vistola getting tickled by those turrets. It's going to be the Immortality Field for now, keeping everybody up on Twisted Minds, and it does a great job. Funny Astro in courts in the feed. The first kill here comes in from VP. Shockwave will get a kill on Simple at range, but the point will be controlled by Twisted Minds first, and Avril, we're going to see a swap.
Well, you see what we got there. As soon as Vistola charges in, he gets a stomp on a player. What happens? Simple drops a lamp. They heal themselves up. A lot of AoE healing. Vistola then gets melted. So yeah, he's got us up. I was surprised that he even decided to come through with an Algo for a second time, knowing how badly that first round went. You mentioned they got 0 kills. Here we go. Jay-Woo's down. He wants to play the sim. Up for this fight.
I mean, this is looking a lot like the last series here early. That's going to be the, I know if my count is correct, that's going to be the second kill here for VP, as Vistola will take out KSA, but that Ant Matrix from the high ground from Simple was really effective, and Avril as well. Like, I know we see Shockwave with a bolo shot during that, but we haven't seen the Freya be as impactful. I know you were talking about the Freya and how good it is, I know in Korea, but here in EMEA, it's completely fallen off.
I think maybe this is not a good example because Shockwave hasn't been the most comfortable on Frey. We're still seeing Shockwave mainly play other heroes, courts. He's been a lot more comfortable on the Frey, but in this particular comp, he wants to make sure that he can punish for solid. They've done that. Deadeye's going to clean them up as well. Cass is just so good into Orisa. I do think on a control map with a lot of high ground and a lot of range, Shockwave can do a lot. He is still one of the only players in this game for VP that's actually got the damage done, that's actually gotten a kill. He's just been punched down somehow from KSA and Spawn. So a little bit of a spawn camp coming through. That's really rough for VP.
I mean, this is brutal. They use a TP here, so that's quite nice. They get rid of that Immortality Field straight away. It's just, can they make a play for the point? The Annihilation available here as well. KSA is going to pop, but you're going to get the Sim Wall as well from Yubi, and that might be enough to actually take it. And dude, Avril, some of the stats lines for VP are brutal. I mean, Gala right now, 2,000 damage, 6,000 healing. In comparison to Simple, right? He's at like 2,500 and then 10k. I mean, just a dominant performance from just about everybody here on Twisted Minds. It'll be VP touching the point.
There's a really big fight coming up here. 4 ultimates, only 5 on life for VP. Big scoop up from Vistola, but not going to get enough damage to find a kill. You need to see a lot more. They're burning every single ultimate. VP have just a window to play through. They can't win off 5 ultimates. They just have no business in the server right now.
The Twisted Mind's just going to back up, right? They're going to back up. They're going to get control of some of the high ground, and we'll see if they're actually able to fight back. So it's going to be the Ant Matrix here from Gala. It's going to put TM in a really odd position, but they lose Gala yet again. They're going to lose both supports right at the beginning. If you remember the previous fight, looking back, it was Gala actually who ends up dropping his Ant Matrix, and he gets hit with a Deadeye there from Quartz. This time he gets picked off right away. They chase down Fixa, and now it'll go into OT. You'll have Shockwave here. Jay-Woo as well, putting down some damage. Jay-Woo ends up falling. It'll have to be somebody here to jump on, get a touch. I believe it was Fixa. He'll send it into OT. It's going to be a sound barrier here from Funny Astro, but Twisted Minds. I mean, we just saw a dominant performance from Alcatia. Yeah. Twisted Minds look just as good.
Well, I think the difference here is that VP kind of just made the mistake in a composition that's much easier for them to change. They have way less fundamental issues compared to TU, so I'm not ready to write VP off. We did see these two teams go to 6 maps just a couple weeks ago, and I think this is very fixable. Don't play them out again. Move away from that. The real problem I'm seeing is if we are going to play Symmetra mirrors, you're not going to really be able to beat a team like Twisted Minds, who has a very specialist Symmetra player in Yubi. He comes in specifically to play the Symmetra. You have Jay-Woo trying to play Symmetra, but I don't think he has the experience on this hero to take down someone like Yubi in a squad like Twisted Minds that are so drilled and so experienced on Symmetra. Well, I'm not even talking about this here. You remember old Twisted Minds stage 1 meta from 2024 as well, when they were up against, Space Station, when they were so EMEA. Yubi was pulling up the sim strats then, even before WCS. I mean, these guys know how to play sim. They've done it for so many years. And for Jay-Woo, spring chicken doing it for like the first time in WCS.
Yeah,
it's rough, man.
Well, do you also think, I mean, at least my opinion, right? Like putting Jay-Woo on sim, like just to match the sim, right? When we haven't really seen him do it all stage long. Like, he's so good at so many other heroes, it kind of takes away a lot of what makes him special, potentially just kind of locking him away on the sim. Is that you see the stats a lot for TM, a little there for VP.
I think you can still play the Venture, but you don't have to go for this all-in Venture Malga comp. You can still play the Orisa, you can still play the Ram, you can play even a Diva, but if you want a faster type of composition, there is going to be maps where you have to think about whether this is going to be the right choice. But if you're not going to play the Sim, this is the option. But also, if you're not going to play the Sim, I think Genji is still potentially fine. I think Cass is potentially fine as well. If you're looking over to a Shockwave, like I said, to me, it's less about the Freya and more about, can this team get what they want out of Freya? I think when you look over towards some of the Korean teams, you just have some nutcases like Cloud out there who just don't miss shots, and the amount of consistency he has in double vaulting plays is ridiculous. So, as I mentioned as well, I don't think Shockwave's looked the most comfortable on Freya. I'm not talking about this game, I'm talking about over the course of the entire stage. He's been the player overall, aside from Lambda, who just doesn't want to play it at all. Shockwave's like the next hit scan on note, like kind of leans away from it. So he starts in the Freya at the start, which, again, if you turn all the names off, I think compositionally it looked fine outside of the Malga. But a swap onto the Orisa maybe slightly late, a swap onto the Symmetra after rolling out the Venture. They're going to start behind the 8-ball in terms of the ult charge, and then you're just going into this extremely well-drilled team who they know how to play a Symmetra mirror, and I don't know if VP really do yet.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like VP, well, I mean, look, they've had the time, right? We've known Symmetra has been viable in EMEA for a few weeks now, right? We just haven't seen a lot of teams kind of delve into it. Maybe some have been scrimming it and, you know, trying to work on it for the playoffs, but does not seem to be, I know, at the same level, obviously, as Twisted Minds, and then I know even Alcatia, who we saw in the first series. So the map pick will be Dorado here for VP. What do you think that says?
Well, that is an exact replica of what we saw in that 6-map series 2 weeks ago. VP, they lose Oasis, they lose opening map, they go straight to Dorado. However, as a reminder, TM full held VP on that Dorado. There was a lot of Diva play, of course, as you'd expect. Sim is probably going to still end up being pretty good on that map. I think once you get past that entire situation, the full hold, maybe VP could have still gotten it done. If Diva ends up being banned, actually, as a reminder, Diva got banned in that particular game, then you had the KSA Ram into the Vistola Orisa. So depending on how VP want to do this one, they may even want to go for a Ram ban just to protect the Diva and prevent team from taking the Diva all way. I don't think this is the map where you do the Sim ban just yet. You want the Sim ban to come through at some point, but you might want to save that one if we're looking at a longer series. That being said as well, though, if you're down 0-2, the map 3, you're probably banning Sim.
Yeah, so they get rid of the Sim here. So they opt to get rid of the Sim here on Dorado. And then the...
I don't hate it.
No, I don't hate it either. Yeah. I don't know if Sim is like super impactful on this map, right? Like if they would have went Sim, I think you could play Genji for like some of the high ground here, or even Tracer.
Did we get a substitute? Is UB still in or not?
There is no substitution. So UB still in the game. This would, I mean, UB can play Tracer,
Tracer
right?
Then. Definitely going to play Tracer then, if there's no Sim available. I would have expected, to be honest, I think it's a good ban in the sense that if you know UB has not been subbed out, then now you can target ban him, force him onto the Tracer, which is going to still be fine for a map like this. So, and even then, TM have actually banned Orisa, so they want the Diva to be available. I find that very interesting, because last time they banned the Diva, this time they want the Diva to be there. They're saying, Vasola, yes, do play the Diva for us.
Yeah, potentially there's other maps they would like to get rid of the Diva to force some other different types of compositions where potentially you kind of stay with it here. So no substitutions like we talked about on both sides of things. Twisted Minds, maybe you ban the Orisa because you feel really good about this Ram, right? You play the Ram basically all of Busan. You can play this Ram into like a Diva setup or a Hazard on the other side and see if you can make it work. Is that Quartz potentially going to play the Freya here? And then we're going to get a Juno Kiri backline. So stage 1, this was not ideal, especially in NA, but it looked a little bit better here in the stage 2 in EMEA, Avril.
Yeah, this is the same comp that TM ran against Virtus.pro 2 weeks ago in that 6-map series, except this time you just have UB on the Tracer instead of Psycho, so it's a 1-for-1 slot in, and UB's obviously played a lot of Tracers past. It's his secondary signature hero after Symmetra, so I don't think that's going to be a huge issue for TM. I'm more interested in what is VP going to pull on through. I don't think they're going to actually run this comp. Nope, Uso Kuriko into the Hazard, so not even the Diva. Diva is available, and they're going to ignore that, and I think it's interesting, because usually you would say, well, there's no Sim here. I think he's concerned about the Ram, because the Ram just kind of punches through the Matrix, so that... Well, okay, never mind. He's going to go the Diva. Even though the Ram punched through the Matrix, I think the high ground, low ground, and A is worth it to play Diva.
I agree with you. I think having that high ground, low ground control as the Diva is really important here. And then there's like no Brig on the other side, right? So you feel like the Funny Astro, Juno, and like Simple backline could be something you can target a little bit as Quartz put a nice explosive shot down into Jaywu, going to force him back as right now KSA just controlling that payload. You see it's not moved at all, in a great position to just kind of play and juggle that doorway. Vistola tries to make a play for the high ground. KSA dangerously low. It's going to be the Suzu there used just to mitigate some of the damage, and he gets healed up just for now, and they're somehow able to keep him alive. I mean, tremendous stuff from Simple and Funny Astro.
Force was under a little bit of pressure there as well. You can see that for Virtus.pro, Vistola had a couple of jobs there to do. He wants to be able to pressure out KSA, but then he needs to put the pressure on the Quartz as well. He's one of the only members, in fact, basically the only member outside of Shockwave that can actually challenge Quartz. But as he does that, he's taking damage, eventually gets demexed, and Quartz stays alive. Gets the damage done on the high ground, getting healed up by Simple, and the payload hasn't moved. That's the most important thing. Payload is just stuck at spawn. That's a big one, though.
I mean, they needed a pick. I mean, it felt like they just absolutely needed a pick to get things going, because the payload being stuck here for any longer would have started to get you a little bit worried. But Quartz, though, finds one. He's going to have a bola shot. I don't think he's going to be able to use it, right? I mean, you see the amount of pressure he is under. Is Funny Astro will end up falling as well. So the D.Va making good benefits here, making their place for high ground. But look,
payload.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is so gross. They just can't move the payload. He's an iron wall, holding up his arms, staying alive forever. He's just delaying things, but it's so worth it, because now TM on the respawn can still fight very closely out. I wonder if they're going to get an archway fight here or not, because payload is still slowly moving up. It's about to hit archway, I believe, so I guess TM are not going to get the best fight, but they have at least stalled out enough.
Yeah, I mean, you do slow them down a bit. I mean, we're already at 1:40. You're going to have both support ults here to work with. Kitsune rushes on both sides as Jaywu's taking his position up in the high ground. Seeing if he can make a play here onto UB. It's going to be Kitsune rush for both sides. Fixa getting closer and closer towards that sound barrier. Vistola very low. Loses his armor, though. They're going to have to keep the D.Va alive. Bowl shot in from Shockwave. Doesn't seem to connect with anything, but they actually finish off Simple. This Funny Astro orbital ray is going to have to be massive here, Avril. If you can get this orbital ray with the Annihilation, you might be in a good spot.
He's going to go for it straight away. Here comes the double Annihilation plus orbital ray combo from Twisted Minds for VP. They mostly look like they're going to back out of this one. Solid cannot get back in back, but he gets a kill on the Funny Astro. He trades 1-for-1, which is actually pretty massive, because remember, even though VP might not win this fight on the respawns, they could still have an advantage. If Vistola coming back on a ram now.
Vistola is going to come back on the Maga here, and Simple is going to... so Simple has moved away from the Curie. He's going to be playing the Brig here towards the end. So Juno Brig in combination with the Ram as VP goes back to the Maga with under 30 seconds left, Avril.
Simple is punishable. This is where Vistola, if he can find a charge in and stomp on Simple's head, that's going to be killed. You don't have bat lamps that bail you out this time, so maybe Vistola can make it work, but he's just so low right now.
Vistola dangerously low. Okay, they get the kill on the Quartz, so that's massive, right? You at least get Quartz out of the fight, getting very close to an overclock, but without that Maga and the Ramatra still there, I don't know how you make any progress here whatsoever as KSA and Co. They push up a little bit further. 6 seconds left. They're going to have to trigger OT.
He's been spotted though, so is he going to be able to get this touch into a potential pulse bomb as well? Just drops it in front of Simple's face, and that's not going to end up being a kill. Gala now next up. Kitsune Rush could still be a fight winner, but double DPS ultimates online for Twisted Minds in a hot minute. We know how good Quartz is on the OC.
I mean, if he comes through with a huge overclock here, that could be it. It'll be the Kitsune Rush here used by VP. Gala's going to push it into the corner. It's going to buy them some space as they get very close to getting the payload on in. As Quartz trying to finish off Shockwave. He's going to be able to get him. Simple finishes off Jaywu. That battle was going on for what seemed like forever. And a Maga swap yet again here. Avril, just like map number 1, does not pay off here, as it's going to be VP getting held before even getting that first checkpoint.
You see the punish from Quartz there as well. Like I said on that opening map at Busan, if Quartz wanted to, he can punish the Malga even harder by going to Soj, which is exactly what you see here. The Solo comes back on a Malga, Quartz swaps, and then he charges an OC in like, what, one fight just by farming rail damage off Vistola's body. Twisted Minds, once again, have full held VP on this Dorado, same as we saw 2 weeks ago. VP are staring down the chamber of a 0-2. I mean, yeah, we saw 6 maps before, but Jake mentioned it. That might have been a Twisted Minds underperformance. And now you have Twisted Minds playing at peak. Virtus.pro, they look like a tier below, unfortunately.
And it does feel like, at least for me, Avril, as we take a look at some of the stats, if Yubi is going to play as good as Jwoo in terms of like statistically throughout the series and just kind of like match him, I don't know what the pathway for VP is to it. Like, Jwoo's been so good for this team that he's kind of when he's playing well and playing like a Genji or Tracer and like dominating, like that's when we see VP rolling. Like when he's not able to get those like early pickoffs and things like that, we see the team get like bogged down in a way where here on defense, we can talk a little bit about the VP comp. They'll end up playing Hazard on D.
So they want to still have some high ground, low ground control. With Sim gone, and unlikely for a Torb to come through for Twisted Minds on their attacking side. We're not seeing a huge amount of potential counters for Hazard. Of course, might look to go Cassia after he sees the Hazard. Or he might just stay even on this Widowmaker. It's not really a good spot for Widow anymore. I think Widow's just completely fallen out of meta, so let's see what he does. It's actually going to be the Freya. Okay, still pretty reasonable. Very long sight lines here. You want to challenge Shockwave, so I respect that.
I think going with the Freya because he's able to take angles like this, right? A lot of verticality you're able to use here on the Freya. Get some shots up on the high ground as Jwoo takes out Yubi. So a huge kill here. We're just talking about that head-to-head, where if Yubi is going to match him in terms of the Tracer duel, I mean, that is something you will take as Twisted Minds every single day. As
by the way,
yeah.
Look how far up the payload is.
I know.
In comparison to how long it took VP to push at all. You're already in a position where you're not quite threatening the last fight here, but if this payload moves further through the archway, it basically is last fight.
Right, they slowly just keep walking you back, right? I mean, look, like the Ramatra uses Nemesis form, takes space, you get pushed back a little bit. I mean, look at how much space they've already garnered, and I think they're going to go. I mean, they get the speed there, they get Shockwave as KSA still able to stay alive, Avril, and you see where that golden box of victory is. They have to end up using the Kitsune rush here from Gala. You're going to get a fight win, but like you mentioned, you may only be in like a one-fight territory to win this for TM.
Yeah. It's a good ult usage though, because that's the first ult online. He's 30% ahead of Simple as well, so understands the timing, knows that he's probably outperforming Simple, just checking stats there for himself. So they're going to have basically a free ult to use. So Jwoo on the back end, okay, I appreciate the attempt there. They do need another pick to slow this one down. Shockwave has rejoined the team now, importantly.
It's going to be Bola
Doesn't
Shot.
have ult, by the way.
Yeah, Bola Shot used by Shockwave. It's going to be the Kitsune Rush. Fixa does not have Sound Barrier just yet. You're going to lose Yubi here as well. Quartz with a Bola Shot. Sound Barrier if need here for Funny Astro. But right now, they're looking perfectly topped up. Yeah. The Sound Barrier here just to put it over the line. And like you mentioned, Avril, a quick 2-0. TM get a hold on defense and then just walk it down here on their first point offense.
It's tragic to see Fixa die in 98% because you're like, you need one more ultimate to stay alive. Gala had a very fast Kitsune rush, keeps him in the game, allows him to survive long enough to get Shockwave back in. But after that, once TM get their double support ults in, you need to see a response, a Sound Barrier to slow that down, get Shockwave back in one more time. If for Shockwave to just start to find more damage and kills anyone outside of Jwoo, it feels like Jwoo on the Tracer is pulling through best he can to slow things down. Maybe if he hits a Pulse Bomb, he's able to just pressure Twisted Minds back, but this can't just be a one-man show for Jwoo. The rest of VP are just strung to hold on, and the biggest thing here was, again, we look at this moment where it takes so long for VP to even get the payload to spawn. Meanwhile, you look at the TM attack, payload's like at the end within a minute or two.
And it's odd because, they played the Hazard, obviously, to kind of control some of the high ground and then, like, have some low ground pressure as well. But, like, Vestola could play Ramatra, right? They could do basically the same type of thing. Like, we've seen Vestola play Ramatra and quite good at it, where, Vestola on the Hazard, that's kind of why I feel like they brought Ice Gnome into the team, right? To play, heroes like this, where potentially a little bit odd here. And look, even if Fixa gets that Sound Barrier, they're already down Shockwave at that point. And you had a Sound Barrier for Funny Astro, so probably good enough for TM to get it over the line anyway. Looking like a much different series than their 6-mapper, just like a week or two ago, where right now TM trying to speedrun. I mean, Avril, we came on camera like 1 o'clock. I mean, 1 o'clock my time. It's like 2:20. We're like one map away from all.
Man, you told me EMEA was a close competitive region. The speedrunner 6-0 day.
It usually is. I mean, these are wild because usually you'll see like a blowout and like there's some signs of life from the other team, right? And like the ultimates, I think obviously pretty outmatched there by Alcatia. That's to be expected. TM, I've been kind of banging the drum the last few weeks, like they're maybe a little bit closer to Alcatia than we expect. but I still thought that VP would give them a very good game, right? Because VP's looked really good as of late when I know they've been working in Ice Gnome a little bit, but mostly still staying with Vestola.
I think Ice Gnome, the reason why he won't get subbed in for a map like this is because of the possibility of the D.Va, because you want to still have the option to play the D.Va. If you sub in Ice Gnome, you're only playing the Hazard, and that's it, unless Ice Gnome wants to bring out the Ram as well, which, you know, I'm not the biggest expert on his hero, so I don't know if he's going to be able to do that, but it makes sense if a solo is in, so I don't have a problem with that. We're going to move to Midtown next. Just checking back to see if that ended up being played. That was actually where the draw occurred, so this is where Team and VP drew a couple weeks ago. And if I have just a quick peek on what comps they were playing, because it was a long series. And
Gala plays like a Lari sometimes on maps like this, right? So potentially that's something that could come into play. Curious what VP decides to do in bans. To give you an idea so far, Avril, just to kind of they VP ban the Alari in map 1, and then VP ban the Sim in map 2.
Yeah, so that Midtown game that was a draw, obviously KSA is still playing Ram. I think the Ram ban needs to come through at some stage. You have to start targeting these very signature picks that Twisted Minds are doing. You've got the Sim out of the way, okay? Couldn't quite win that map. UB just flexes over to Tracer, makes that work. Now you have to think about other heroes like the Ram, because the Ram, if you're not going to play it yourself, maybe get rid of it, force it into an Orisa matchup, or, you know, even we saw Visola play the Sigma here. I don't know if I'm the biggest believer on Sigma for Midtown anymore. I think it's a little too much of a fast map. They played the Bafalari as well, which I don't know if that's really... I'm a big believer in that, but TM have banned away the Sigma anyway. They've probably done VP a service here. I think that's a good thing. I think you shouldn't be playing Sig anyway, so that's probably fine.
They protect VP from themselves, so to speak. And VP bans the Lucio. So, no, look, we see teams do this against TM all the time, right? Funny Astro, a tremendous Lucio player. Teams go towards this, but like, if Funny Astro can play the Juno, he can play the Brig, right? I think there's definitely some still really viable options here. For TM to work with in terms of supports. I think from VP, you probably, like, do they play like a Ram here potentially with like an Alari, like BAP type of setup, right? Something you would kind of play with a Sigma, but maybe just play the Ram with it. But it is quite odd. We haven't really seen them gone to the Ram throughout this whole series.
If we actually look at the zoom of the main supports, I think Fix's Brig is better than Funny Astro's Brig, but Funny Astro's Lucio is better than Fix's Lucio. So you have a situation here where you ban away the Lucio, force it into a potential Brig BAP. So I'm actually not a fan of them going for this sort of like Bapalari, not for this map. Maybe a Circuit Royale that's a little bit more, you know, makes sense for this heavy poke style, but I think it's too easy to close the gap, especially if Twisted Minds just TP into you. It's too easy to close the gap there. Play the Brig BAP instead, when you know Fixer is so good on this Brig, and when you know that maybe Funny Astro is not going to be as good as Fixer, that could be an opportunity to find a moment of difference. How do you get past the Ram? I think the Ram is still an issue, which is why I said potentially a Ram ban could have been quite good for VP. Even then, they get to protect the Sigma if they really, really desperately want to play it. So could have been a 2-1 for Visola and VP there.
And honestly, it also is in a world, Avril, right, where you win this if you're VP, right? You're going to be getting second ban and not map selection from here on out. New Junk City is a tremendous map to play like Brawly, Rush style comps, Runasapi as well, right? Like, they may want like a Ram ban to potentially be on one of those maps where you think that, okay, even if you ban the Ram here and you win it, you're then playing against it, you know, with a Sim, right? Because they have already banned the Sim and they would have banned the Ram on like a New Junk City, and then you're just in a almost unwinnable spot anyway. So maybe they feel like, hey, we're going to have to, you know, potentially save it for a little bit later in the game. But as you guys see, it is match point for TM already. Avril on the defensive side of things, we'll talk about them first. They'll be putting Quartz on the cast, so they actually won't be putting Funny Astro on the break. He'll be playing the Juno with the Baptiste here.
Yeah, I think Brig BAP seems a little bit more normal, but Funny Astro just might prefer the Juno. They also may just prefer the speed. You want to have the speed option for KSA. It's just not going to feel nearly as good as a Lucio BAP in the same sort of situation. I'm sure they'll be able to find a way to make this one work. UB, by the way, has played the entire series. I don't think we've had a single series for TM so far this stage where UB's played the entire series and you haven't seen Psycho in. But, you know, like we talked about earlier, I think we are just in a heavy sim meta, and so UB staying in the whole time makes so much sense for this team.
And maybe early on in the stage we saw UB like all the time in one of them. I imagine, yeah, we're going to get swaps here from VP, but Yes, like you mentioned, we have not seen Yubi play like an entire series in a long time. Psycho's been doing a great job playing Tracer, but really he's just been playing Tracer, where Yubi can obviously play the Tracer, maybe not to the same level as Psycho, but then add that sim in as Jaewoo putting some pressure up here on that subway car. What do you think about this VP comp?
Yeah, I don't know about this Kiriko Juno on the backline. Maybe it seems a little fragile to me. The lack of the BAP here just seems so strange given how strong BAP in this current meta is. We'll see if Shockwave can get something done. I do believe having the attacking Freya, just having some angles over the top of the train is going to give some advantage. Court started on the Soj. I don't know if he was expecting him out, but the other side, Fix is even just going to go down here. Okay, interesting.
you don't seem thrilled with that play, I would say, as the sim just gets a TP behind us. Yeah, it is a very, like, obviously the BAP adds some level of sustain to the backline, right? With that regen burst, the immortality field, KSA in a tough spot, but there's going to be the immortality field. Where for VP, right, you have this like Juno Kiri backline, which is really susceptible.
Just seems more brittle. Like I said, I think the BAP extra damage, the wall damage. Lamp is so clean. I think Lamp is maybe better in this sort of scenario than Isuzu in terms of how long it can last for you. We're just in a heavy brawl meta. You just don't really associate the Kiriko with that kind of brawl matchup. So Twisted Minds are probably running something a little bit more standard, but as we said, VP, they're not going to be the team to play that much sim. They tried this sim on map 1. They don't look experienced on it. Jaewoo, let's see what he does now. He's been the player to look out for VP. But no out for Simple so far, but I don't think he caught anybody.
No, but they lose Vestola. I mean, so one of the things, it's going to be really difficult. Pulse Bomb, nice one here, stuck. That's going to be the immortality field, though. Able to keep Quartz alive as Jaewoo just trying as hard as he can up here on the high ground to take out the Sojourn. Where Gala and Fixa, they'll end up getting 2, but they don't have a tank. They're kind of stuck up here. That's an orbital ray here from Gala as they want to continue to kind of fight this. Maybe, I know, just feeling like with Jaewoo in the mix, there's a chance for them to win it. It's funny, Astro will pop his orbital ray as well. It'll be a Terror Surge here used by Vestola. You're going to get Funny Astro, but KSA using the Annihilation, able to stay alive, and then Yubi using that big sim wall, making it very difficult. You don't want to push into that ram in that type of scenario, but VP battling back in this.
Of course, he has no angles. He's trying to get something done off the OC, but I'm pretty sure he's just out of position entirely. He's backing out. He's almost a defensive, you know, disengage OC at that point. TM wanted to drop every single ultimate, but even the UB Photon Barrier, how defensive was that? He had to place that sort of horizontally across the point just to allow KSA a little bit more room to survive. And then VP, just wait patiently. Let the Annihilation fade. Once the Annihilation's gone, go back in there. Destroy him and just completely rush him down. And you see the spear being shoved into KSA and then just the entire team going at him. Not a lot left in there for TM. Vestola played that super well, by the way. Terror Surge on the back line on Funny Astro as well after the orbital ray came through.
Yeah, so like a pretty ugly start to the fight there from VP, but they felt like, you know, Jaewoo alive. Yeah, Vestola coming back as Jaewoo takes some damage here. Just backed up as we're going to see a Diva mirror. This is where I feel like the sim, though, can be quite beneficial, right? Going up against that Diva, trying to use that defense matrix, getting UB out, you're going to have to use that immortality field as well, but the sim being able to just get all this free damage on Vestola, I don't know how they're going to be able to get him in safely.
I think it really says a lot the team are moving to the Diva for this point, maybe just valuing the high ground, low ground on that actual bridge itself. Fix it down now. They're going to try and get a little bit of a spawn hold going if they can. But also, the extra utility to be able to just TP KSA potentially into the backline around the map can't be understated here. Window online for Simple.
I mean, getting him in position, right, without having to use a defense matrix. It'll be an ant matrix pushed up here. Quartz will find Gala, so this is just going to stall things out even longer. I mean, Jaewoo behind, just trying to make anything happen for the team. That's going to be a pulse bomb, goes a little bit wide there as you do end up finding UB, so you're going to have to back up. That's a large source of damage gone here for TM, but we're on board with Shockwave. We haven't said his name quite a lot here in this one, Avril. It's been a little bit of a slow start for him through these 2 maps.
We just haven't really seen him on the kill feed, which means he's also not getting that Freya passive either, and just relying on the fact that Bowl is not a very good ult, but if you can get it all the time, then it might actually start to be pretty good. He's going to struggle a little bit into the Diva. He's probably going to lose a bunch of ultimates. If you can get the D-Mech here, that would be really nice. Gala's already ulted. Funny Astro responded.
Yeah, they do end up getting the D-Mech. It'll be Quartz popping the OC. He's going to get a lot of damage into Fix, so that's going to be both supports gone for Virtus.pro. But Is it enough here for Twisted Minds? KSA still in the mix, as you're going to have to dodge Jwoo here. Vestola gets that kill on the Simple, so you're going to lose that, big support there with the Baptiste. No Immortality Field gone, no regen burst, just with Funny Astro coming off the spawn. You're going to have to back up a little bit, so you're going to get some more payload progress here for VP, and still have that Bola shot with the rally to maybe get it over the line.
I think the tides are turning here. TM are now playing VP's game. VP want this D.Va mirror. They also got Fixer over towards a break for a couple of fights now. They're getting into a situation where Funny Astro is even on the break. This is definitely within VP's wheelhouse. Finding the ball shot. See if that finds anything. Over the top. Shockwave. He was trying to hide behind the lamppost, but it's not going to be wide enough to hide his body.
Yeah, and he's not able to get out of the dodge there, and you're going to have Yubi get onto the point. He's going to be able to keep this contested. Such a rough spot for VP to fight from, especially with Simple using this Amp Matrix up on the high ground, but Jwoo able to stay alive. KSA comes back here on to the Wrecking Ball, just going to kind of get back here, put down some damage. Then we'll probably see him go back to the spawn and swap just on the rollout. I mean, Jwoo still here. I mean, just trying to keep them in it in like the most desperate of fashion. You have a few players here. Looks like Gala up on the high ground there, but you're going to end up losing this fight. And we go into OT as somebody's going to have to touch. Is Jwoo not able to get there? So you're going to end up not having him get there, get a touch. He gets a lot of damage down, recall force early. Shockwave up on that bridge, doesn't make it, and that's where the payload will stop.
It's an insane final fight there from Simple's POV. He gets an initial pick and then just stays alive forever. Doesn't go down to Jwoo, who at that point, he's the only one in position to touch, but he's stuck in a 1 versus 1 against the BAP, and he just can't get Simple down. VP, I think they eventually moved into a bit more of a comfort zone, turned the tides a little bit in terms of the actual compositional matchup to be more favorable towards them. I thought they were really going to cap B, and if they cap B and nothing changes for TM, VP could absolutely finish the map. But right at the end, a final clutch up from TM, KSA coming back on the ball, which, by the way, if there is another fight, like a full 5v5, KSA ball probably isn't going to end up doing enough. So that looks like a very good start for VP, but just too many late deaths. You see, I think Gala was the last one to die as the time is about to go to 0, and it's like, okay, they just don't have enough members.
Avril, VP comes out here on D. We're going to see Jwoo on the Freya, and then we're going to see Shockwave on the Torb. A very odd setup. I want to get your thoughts on it right after this Twisted Minds. Listen to it.
I try to let, yeah.
Okay. Let's focus up 3-0, okay?
Kita good diva.
Okay.
Yeah, Burisa. Priya. Ready? I'm gonna speak.
1 second.
Three.
Forward for ya.
Control! Chill, Casey. You can't get back. I'm gonna
break turret.
Break turret. Okay, Casey, team fight. No, from down. Top one. Casey, ready? I'm gonna be hard.
Okay.
No, take it. Casey, take it. There is it, stay. There is it, come on. Oh, you take it back.
Take it back.
Okay, keep standing on point.
Can you raise a wire? Top one. One. Win, 3 points. I'm gonna twin Torb. Ready? I have to win 3. No. Oh, never mind. Kill Priya.
Shoot 3. Uri, dash. No balls.
Top one high ground.
Come behind you, matey. Top inside. Oh, okay, I'm in the wrong.
Close.
Is that first fight doesn't work out there for TM Avril, as you see they desperately wanted to get that kill onto Shockwave. But what do you think about this VP comp? Like, I can't even really remember Jwoo playing the Freya that often.
It's the same as what we saw 2 weeks ago, and Jwoo actually played the Freya then as well. VP, they just substituted out the Sigma that was banned for an Orisa. It's just a very heavy turret type of composition. They're playing all in for an 8-point defense here, trying to be as frustrated to play into as possible. But mind you, Horse was on a Widowmaker. He's not on a Widowmaker anymore. That's an improvement to TM's comp, as Yubi's just trying to beam down Vestola.
Yeah, they have that Immortality Field, though, in the mix. Keeps Vestola alive a little bit longer, but you see everybody contributing in the feed there for Twisted Minds. The Amp Matrix from Simple on that off angle splits up Virtus.pro, and Vestola now going to go over to the D.Va. Going to have to get back and get a touch, but they don't actually get onto the point, Avril. So it's going to be the first point going to Twisted Minds, and they're all going to die here late. That's like worst case scenario.
That's really rough as well, because Jwoo is starting to pop up. We're starting to find some kills in there. I don't believe we even really got to see how this composition kind of worked out in that previous match a couple of weeks ago, because that map, I believe, no one ended up capping, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, we actually did finish the map twice. We went to the time bank, so VP. Obviously, they got ultimates online. They're going to stay for the time being. Jay was going to be the first to swap. The Souls are back over towards D.Va. These are the players that lost their ults already.
Yes, old Captive Sun actually gets eaten by KSA. You're going to have UB here potentially with this big sim wall that's going to come through. He gets it, he doesn't use it. It's going to be Quartz, though, with that orbital ray as they push in towards Fixa, using that Amp Matrix up on the high ground. I also think because you're making these switches right towards the end and Shockwave ends up having this Tor Bolt and you're kind of holding on to it, like you just don't have enough damage, I think, right? Especially with the Sim Cassidy on the other side.
It's an all-in defense for A, so everything ends up being the wrong type of, hero composition going in towards B. The problem is they had just too many ultimates. They don't want to give up the ults. The ults didn't find value. Now they're still keeping the talk for all the value of the Molten Core. Just going to dump it on the point to stop the cap.
The Molten Core comes through. Quartz trying to get through that TP, potentially getting it off with that Molten Core. Somebody's got to get a touch here for VP. Okay, it looked like Jaewoo ends up getting onto that point. That's going to be a self-destruct up in the sky. KSA doesn't get anything with it. Quartz still here, though, up on the high ground. Same with Funny Astro. So now it's going to be backing out. So it's going to be Twisted Minds getting dangerously close, Avril. You see with that golden box of victory, and still with 3 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, they have to play perfectly now. Slide this payload back into the underpass. They've lost high ground control here as well. It's VP. They at least are starting to come through on a couple more ultimates. Jaewoo, he was one of the first to swap as well as stole it. It's gonna go wide, the pulse bomb though.
We'll see though. It looks like maybe setting up a play with that TP. They get right on top of Gala. That's going to be the regen burst and the immortality field. The immortality field comes in a little bit later from Simple, and you see they're just burning down Bestola, forcing him out. You do end up losing KSA though. You're going to get a touch. It's going to be Bestola getting back in mech here as well. So it looks like here for at least the moment, VP going to be able to hold on. You'll finish off Funny Astro towards the end of this, but that got quite dangerous. You see you be able to use that TP there, Avril, and get right on top of the backline.
I like the KSA swap to Ram though. This is where they can start to have a little bit more power, punch through the Matrix a little bit more as well. They also have a timing on double support ult. This orbital ray is going to be a big one. And Fixer is going to be too far away from Rally. I don't know that Rally's going to be good enough to fight this anyway, but you need everything. You need as much as you can. Molten Core could be a really large one to stop KSA from walking forward and stop the orbital ray from moving forward with the team.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried though for VP. Double support ult here. Simple could use that Amp Matrix on the high ground. And before the Molten Core even gets off, Quartz gets a headshot on the Shockwave. It'll be an Amp Matrix for Gala, but he falls. Quartz just dominating through that Amp Matrix. Jaewoo with a pulse bomb, but it is most certainly too little too late, as it looks like they know exactly where he's going to be coming from. He'll get on, get a touch, won't live for long, as Twisted Minds makes a huge statement here, Avril. A blowout of VP.
Yeah. The statement here is, last time we faced up against VP, it was a fluke. The 6 maps, not going to happen again. We're going to cut that down to half the time. A clean 3-0. First map, 2-0 in the scoreline, specifically looking at the rounds being played on Busan. And Dorado didn't really get much there either. Full hold. Midtown was the most competitive map, but even then, when it really came down to it, Twisted Minds, they got past the Torb all in on the defense that Virtus.pro showed. They got past the sort of D.Va versus D.Va mirror matchup. And again, for VP, where they looked comfortable is when they dragged the game away from the Ram and dragged it towards the D.Va matchup instead. But then you have Quartz still indomitable on the Sojin. And he's able to just pick up this beautiful shot of the Shockwave, deny the Molten Core, and then find a follow-up conversion as well. They then get them like a 5 versus 3. You just can't win against that.
I mean, look, if you're going to give Quartz high ground with an Amp Matrix and an Orbital Ray, there's a good chance he's going to come out with at least 1 or 2. And I thought as well, Avril, today interesting from the TM side of things, right? We've seen them move players in and out with like Psycho and TVNT and KSA today. Just KSA and Yubi in the lineup for them. On the VP side of things, Avril, what went wrong today? I mean, they were close to beating TM the last time around, but today, we're not in the same ballpark.
Well, last time, UB played 1 map. This time he played 3 maps. And if I remember correctly, that 1 map that UB played wasn't that Circle Royale, it was map 6. He came in fresh. They needed to win that map, and he comes in on the sim, they just win it. We're in a sim meta right now. JWoo doesn't look experienced on the sim. VP doesn't look like an experienced sim team. I'm not convinced that you have to play the sim or lose. Maybe in EMEA that is true. I think the look on the Venture is a possibility, but you just don't have time. You need like another week or two to develop that as a viable counter. And overnight, I'm not going to see a situation with VP in the span of this playoffs to be able to find something. I mean, I think there's a second week of playoffs, right? So maybe they survive week one, they get into the second week, maybe they can find a viable sim counter or just learn to play sim as best they can. But right now, it's OWCS, it's Ultimates, two good sim teams, the best sim brawl teams that are looking like favorites to take out EMEA. One of these two teams will probably win it all.
Yeah, I think this match definitely displays that there is a tier gap in EMEA between TM and OWCS and the rest. And I mean, that is it for me and Avril in EMEA day. I mean, that is as about as fast of a day as you can get. Before we go back to the desk, though, let's listen to the, I mean, I don't know if Jaws and them are they're available yet. I mean, they might have to go to the desk and fill for a bit. But before we get there, let's listen to winning moments here from Twisted Minds.
Trace one.
Nice. Good job.
Nice, guys.
Nice, boys.
Good job.
Good job.
Easy.
Okay, guys.
the little easy there at the very end. Right. Well, listen, this was a lot more one-sided than we hoped for, certainly supporting Twisted Minds' claim that the last time they played it so close was just because Twisted Minds underperformed. It was very, very clear throughout the entirety of this match that VP did not have an answer to Symmetra in the mix there. Juby actually in for the entirety of the game, so we haven't seen that in a while. But yeah, I mean, what can you even take away from a short series like that, Jake?
What I will say is I'm actually really more bullish on Twisted Minds than I was before. I thought Katsuya would be the team to commit harder on the sim for playoffs, and I thought they'd just win because of it, because I think it's the better comp, the meta right now. But TM, I actually think this is really intelligent of them to come towards the sim meta here in playoffs. I think this is... Like, I don't think you can beat the sim comp the way Katsuya plays it without mirroring. I think it's the best comp right now. Maybe you can counterpick on a map or two or ban it out here and there, but you need to be able to play the sim. And so giving UB and KSA that consistent play time here in playoffs, using the Symmetra to great effect, and then UB still looking solid on Tracer and Dorado, very important, right? If the sim gets banned, you do need to be able to compete on the other roles, but UB has that flexibility. So I think this, as much as it's like kind of an easy cleanup here of Virtus.pro, this is a very much a statement for Twisted Minds, exactly the way they wanted to start this playoffs off, if they're going to win it all.
Yeah, my take on this series is actually that, you know, quite obviously Virtus.pro didn't have an answer at all, and they were looking for answers throughout the series. We saw JWoo go towards the Symmetra at one point on control map. The Stola tried a bunch of different tags, whether it's the Orisa, the Ramatra, the Diva, and at the end of the day, I think Virtus.pro, they are a team that I don't think can go towards the Symmetra. Like, I don't think that JWoo picking the Symmetra is the best answer for them, because I don't think he's as well practiced on that hero as, you know, like UB, for example, who's a fantastic Symmetra player. But I think Virtus.pro, though, I still think that they didn't give themselves the best chance to win. I think a few of their players maybe didn't have the best series. Vistola was obviously under a lot of pressure this series, and it's very tough to play, you know, Orisa when you're up against like a Sojourn Sim, because like there's just so much pressure you're coming your way. I think JWoo had a pretty stable performance though, like found picks on Dorado, for example, and gave Virtus.pro a chance. I think, like Matt mentioned during the cast, Shockwave is actually the player that couldn't find the picks on Freya, and when you're playing Freya, like, you gotta hit some of those double bolts, you gotta find some opening picks, and I think Shockwave had a relatively quiet series. So I think Virtus.pro, they found on Midtown a decent playstyle to play around Twisted Minds. They sat back more, they relied on their damage players to open up some of these fights, but I don't think Shockwave was can be quite satisfied with his performance on Freya today, and maybe if Shockwave steps up, it's a bit of a closer series.
Yeah, so I mean, if going toe-to-toe with a very experienced Symmetra such as UB doesn't work for you, JWoo obviously not having the practice on that hero. Also, as you see, UB obviously our player of the match with that performance. What you got to do as a team there in such a short turnaround, right? We saw them also trying out the Venture. Arrow touched on that as well. Venture being that counter, but you got to be a very competent Venture player as well, and the team needs to actually work around that Venture pick as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a terrible meta for Venture. Theoretically, the matchup against Sim is all right, like, you know, maybe even pretty good. However, Cassidy and Orisa are also pretty dominant in the meta right now, and those are insanely bad matchups for Venture. Like consistent lockdown that breaks you when you go into your burrow, or denies mobility is like you just die. You just get evaporated in 1 or 2 seconds. So yeah, you have a sort of an okay matchup against one of the heroes on Sim, but you know, the rest of the team, I'm not convinced they're going to be able to follow up with the rest of the picks in the meta right now. I think it's play Sim or go home for me. Like maybe you can be the 3rd place team because there's only 2 teams playing Sim, but for me, Twisted Minds, Ketsia are going to dominate everyone playing the Sim, and the real question in my mind is who's going to wind up on top between the 2 of them when they clash.